Alright, let's see how we're doing with our stream here. Okay, guys, we are live, and we're talking about healthcare today. Let me, I want to get everything set up for us. Okay, no, not on that one. The chat viewer, we need to get set up. Okay, come on. I got to get my chat viewer. Hey, my big butt. I'm just getting everything set up here. I got my my chat viewer. Hi, Luminary. Okay, we got to authorize XSplit to use. I just got to get the chat set up for this site. So we are. This will only take a minute, guys. Figure out where that button is. Okay. Next. And allow. And we should be able to see our chat on screen. Okay. We are good to go, guys. Hi, Luke. And Majin Buu and Ansel. My big one. Number 1, fuck Donald Trump. 2, fuck Kiba. 3, I'm chubby. It's all done. Well, actually, as you guys can see, we're talking about healthcare today. And I want to find out what you guys think. Now, first of all, the best way to get conversation started in these things, I think, is to give you my views on this stuff. First of all, I'm not because it's always the question that comes up right away, I'm not a fan of single payer whatsoever. I think single payer would be a huge, huge mistake. And I'm sure you guys know what single payer healthcare is, but it's basically the government pays for healthcare for all. And the only way to do that, of course, is with tax dollars. Now, Bernie Sanders and people of Bernie Sanders' ilk, as far as opinionation goes, would have you believe that by extra taxes on the rich and a few other little money grabs and money that'll be saved from other areas when we don't have to make use of them because everybody has health care, is going to pay for it. And it's not. What will happen is the tax rate will be insane, but that's the basis of socialism. Socialism, in essence, says, okay, regardless of your amount of effort, whatever you put into something, everybody gets together and just throws the money in the pot and splits it up with everybody else. And that's basically what single-payer healthcare is. And it's also why it failed in California. It failed in Bernie Sanders' state of Vermont. He'll tell you it was because of politics. Yeah, because no politician wants to be connected to something that's going to raise people's taxes to the point where they can't afford to feed their children. That's the political aspect of it. Now, as I'm talking, I want to keep an eye on you guys' comments. All I know for sure is that it's complicated, right, Luminary? See, those are the times that Trump really gets to me saying things like that. You didn't think it was complicated. No, I don't have to say it. You guys know. You know what, though, Luke? And I don't. You're 100% right. Luke says my first thought is fuck the Republicans for being little pussies and not keeping their repeal promise. And he's 100% right. Trump ran on repeal and replace. The Republicans came in force to back him up on it. And I think their biggest mistake was not in that they didn't do it. It's that they promised that they could without realizing how difficult it was going to be. You don't go promising your base something like that without having completely, in every way, shape, and form, researched it, figured out, okay, as Republicans, what can we all agree on to get Obamacare out and get ours in? They had no clue. They had no clue. And you're right. They let their base down. I mean, if you're a conservative Republican, you have every right to be pissed off because you shouldn't be being promised things like that. That's just what I was just coming down on Bernie Sanders about, because he promises things, in my opinion, that can't be delivered. And that's just what the Republicans did. We're talking about healthcare or welfare. Well, there are some healthcare systems that are described as welfare for all, my big butt. So I guess in that respect, basically, single-payer healthcare is welfare. I mean, it works on the same principles. I don't care if they want to repeal and replace it. They can't just repeal and leave almost 6 of the country fucked without a replace it. 100%, Luminary. Agree with you guys. And that's why they were stupid to promise it. How can you, well, we've seen, and again, I'm going to be fair, right? right down the middle again. You're going to hear me on here say things that come out harshly against Trump. You'll hear me saying things that come out for him because I don't have anybody I back. I just call it the way I see it. Trump fucked up on that one. He screwed that up. He should not. And again, but he's done it on several issues. You don't promise something that you don't know for sure you can deliver. I thought it was wildly inappropriate at the time to promise a repeal and replace of Obamacare, and I'm not even an Obamacare fan per se, but apparently he saw no issue with it. No, socialism. McCain, well, to an extent, Luke, you're right. McCain certainly did halt any possibility of repeal and replace. I got to tell you, though, Luke, it might end up working out in the Republicans' favor because I think their current package was weak enough it would have hurt you guys later on in 2018 and more so in 2020. I agree, Big Bud. I agree that he shouldn't have promised it. That was the big thing. He shouldn't have promised it. Socialism, yes. I'm not a fan of socialism at all. I think socialism is an entirely failed form of government, and I think it will fail every time. That's my personal opinion, particularly in a country built on capitalism like America is. And I think you unfortunately have a lot of people, and I'm not, there can be people who believe in socialist forms of government and have a lot of knowledge about these issues and they just feel it's the best. I would totally disagree with them, but I think a huge percentage of them are people who are barely involved in politics at all and just get swept in by Bernie Sanders saying, free college, free healthcare, there's plenty of money for everything to be free. You don't have to pay for things. And they believe it. Obamacare will crash. Obamacare will crash unless... Now, see, here's my stance on it. And the way Mark Cuban... I just want to keep up with all the comments I can. Mark Cuban had an idea to make some parts of healthcare to be covered with taxes and others through personal insurance. That's not a bad jumping off point, Galahad. Mark Cuban is all over the board for me. Sometimes I really like what he says. Other times I think he sounds a little wacky. But I don't have anything against the guy. My stance on it is, again, as far as I'm concerned, you throw single payer out. Single payer is not going to work. When you hit people with a tax bill that single payer health coverage would cost in America, I think there'd be violence. I do. I think there would actually be an honestly violent revolution in this country. That's how severe I think it would be. Excuse me. Yeah, well, and Luminary is saying some forms of socialism work all right with capitalism. That's how it goes in some Scandinavian countries, I believe. Hi, Captain Balsack. I agree with you 100%. In that, but the socialists draw false comparisons. Because even in a capitalist society, you need some social programs to take care of your people. Like they like to point out. You need a fire department. You need a police department. These are all social programs. The welfare system is a social program. Nobody's denying that you need programs built for the people. That's a huge far cry from being a socialist society. Because a socialist society, as I said, is one where everybody gets together, throws everything they got in the middle, and then we share it evenly. And I don't believe in that. I believe that you should be able to succeed per the amount of effort you want to put into your success. I think that's what works well about capitalism. You can't really swing to the extreme. Oh, I agree. Luminary says you can't really swing to the extreme in either direction. You guys will find that, for those of you who don't know, will find that about me right down the line. I do not like extremists on either side. I don't think there's anything good to be gained from extremism. That's why I'm not a fan of Bernie Sanders, not a fan of Ted Cruz. I don't like people who are extremists on either side. Obamacare have been failing for 17 years. And the thing is, too, okay, but we all know that was just a misspeak on Donald's part. But the man has so much ego that I put myself in that situation. I speak not to the groups that Donald Trump speaks, but you guys know I speak in public all the time. I misspeak like anybody else would. So you take a moment and you go, oh, excuse me, I meant 7. But Donald is just like, I think even correcting himself he would find as a disrespect to his ego. Yeah, exactly, Luminary. Social programs is far from social schools. Yeah, Luke. And that's just something that the people who push socialism try and make people believe. Oh, well, it's not socialism. It's democratic socialism. Yeah, that's socialism. All you're talking about is the way that the government is put in place. It's still socialism, and it still sucks. What I think, and let me know hi Cyberdelic, let me know what you guys think. First of all, I have a really good, I was very fortunate. I have excellent insurance from my employer. However, because I was a truck driver, I made a lot less money during my career than I could have to keep those benefits. Because there's a lot more money driving for construction companies, driving over the road, driving pretty much anywhere than what I made working for a municipality. However, I knew I had those benefits. So I sacrificed that money because those benefits have insane amounts of value. So when you start talking about single payer for all, the first thing you're going to do is take those insurances away from people who have plans that they like, that are employer provided. That's stupid. You talk about counterproductive. You should go into the healthcare debate saying, okay, we've got employers in this country who are taking care of their employees with their health insurance. Leave that alone. Now let's work from there. Everyone I know in California is a truck driver. Actually, believe it or not, truck driver is the rate of pay has increased over the past, I think the study I read said 7 years, has increased more for truck drivers than any other profession in America. Because if you're a truck driver, I don't know if you guys know this, you have to have a CDL license, which is a federal driver's license. And because of that, you have to be in a drug and alcohol testing pool. No two ways about it. No matter who you work for, you're a professional driver, you're in that pool, and a lot of people don't want to be in those pools. So it's driven the number of people willing to drive down, which drives the pay rate up. Excuse me, guys, I got a terrible itch in my ear. I supported Bernie less for the increases on social programs like single payer and free tuition, and more for him being a respectable person. Foreign policy, if that's correct. I'll give you that. As much as Bernie Sanders, I'm not a Bernie Sanders fan of him personally because of, strictly, not because of his personality, because I think he promises things that he has no right to promise. That's why I don't like him. As far as an individual, I can respect that. I think Bernie Sanders is a very decent individual. I just don't like his views on much of anything. I think, though, you like him on foreign policy? I'm not sure. I can't really say, because Bernie, I'm not real clear on his foreign policies. Because he never seemed that clear to me about his foreign policies. Globalism versus nationalism, Luke. I hate to say that again, but I think you gotta. I don't think you can take an extreme and say we're a nationalist country or we're a globalist country. I think America has to come first, but I think America comes first with the idea that we need other people in the world to be our partners for America to be a better place and for the world to be a better place. So I don't know. Does that make you globalist or nationalist? I would never. And again, the only way you can really, to me, you can speak on these things when you ask a question like that is, okay, if I'm president, what do I do? So am I a globalist or a nationalist? Because I think America always comes first, but I think that we need to be a good partner to everybody else in the world, and certainly to our own allies. So I guess, again, I'm landing somewhere in the middle there. Bernie, I know that, Luke. Bernie didn't hold a job until he was 40. And that was as a politician. So, yeah, I don't have tons of respect for that. American Jeremy Corbyn. Too many promises, not enough explaining. I'm not familiar with Jeremy Corbyn, but Mad Men, I think you've described him. From my way of seeing, and again, I'm not trying to rip on anybody who's a Bernie supporter. It's just my perspective. When he goes out there telling people that he's going to put in free college for all and single-payer health care where everybody's covered, and doesn't bother to tell you what type of tax burden it's going to create, and gives you these bullshit proposals. When he finally got pinned down and asked how he was going to pay for it, the numbers don't add up, and not even close. And to be fair, you guys know me. I'm a working stiff just like the rest of you guys. I'm a garbage man. I'm a retired garbage man. I'm as middle-class blue-collar as it comes. So I don't have a lot of money. But why is there all the hate on people who do have money? Bernie thinks it's okay, and Bernie thinks it's cool to tax rich people at 90%. That's not. So you're worried about one sector of the society being discriminated against, and you're going to rectify that by discriminating against another sector of the society. There's no way that anything over 50%, as far as I'm concerned, in taxes is fair to anybody. Now, I'm all for closing loopholes, all the loopholes rich people like to use to get out of paying taxes. 100%, I'm with that. But you can't tax them at that rate. Bullshit. You have no right to take their money. They earned it. Trump Tower is a monument to Trump's ego. Absolutely. That's why he puts his name on everything cyberdelic, without a doubt. Yep, is Corbyn all right? Is that somewhere, Madman? Because that's why I don't like him. We could probably implement smaller versions with less extremes. And that's true, Luminary. I think that's true on both sides. We need less extremes. I don't think Hillary stole the nomination. You think so, Luke? That Bernie didn't really want to win? I've heard other people floating that theory. Hillary definitely stole the nomination from him. There's no doubt about that. I mean, come on. You're going into debates with people from CNN giving you the questions in advance. And I know, okay, that is an issue. But to me, that was never made as big an issue as it should. And I'll be right up front with you. If somebody said it was going to be a Democratic president, I'd rather have Hillary than Bernie. But there's no doubt that Bernie got screwed. Excuse me. I don't think it's that high. Galahad Knight says 90% of tax is theft. That's why we had an American Revolution. I don't think it's that high, Galahad. I think there's a lot of misuse of our tax dollars. And that's another thing with healthcare. When you go right into how do we go about, and I'll explain more to you because I have my own ideas, how we cover everybody, you can't even get into how do we cover everybody without first taking a look at why are the prices so exorbitant. What exactly are, and I'm not a big company hater. I'm not a rich guy hater at all. But if drugs are being sold to people who need them to live, and they're being sold at 300%, 400%, 500% markups, I have a problem with that. Because, again, I understand the way our system works, and I understand everybody has the opportunity to make a buck. But I think, and I'm all for less government interference, but when somebody won't regulate themselves, and you're talking about people's lives, you're talking about medicine people need to survive, and people are... You have pharmaceutical companies who are marking stuff up 300%, 400%, 500%. Bullshit. That's where the government should be stepping in on our behalf. And you don't think that's why a lot of pharmaceutical companies make huge donations to all the politicians? They got to have them in their pocket. They need to. That's one of the things that needs to be addressed first and foremost. But after, as far as covering everybody, I think we should first take the sector of the society that's happy with their coverage through their employers and say, we're leaving you guys alone. We're not going to hit you with any more fees. You're not going to pay for anything else. You're out of the equation. And I like the idea of the government pushing employers towards providing health care. And here's why. Say we go, let's just take Walmart, for example. If you go to Walmart and say, because you employ so many people, the government is going to require you to provide health care and lay out the parameters. They got to have a minimum coverage of this, minimum coverage of that. What that's going to do, and as a government, we should come to the people and be right up front. What that's going to do is force Walmart to raise their prices on some of their items. That's a far better method of getting a lot of people health care than taxing you and then having the government provide it. Because as soon as you start talking about taxing it, you're going to have waste. There's going to be so many extra steps in there that we're going to pay 3 times as much to get that same health care. If Walmart has to provide it to their people, they're going to raise the prices the minimum they need to cover it because they don't want to lose customers. But if all their competitors, Target's going to have to do it, Kohl's is going to have to do it, Penny's going to have to do it, everybody's in the same boat. They have to provide those same health care coverages. So you still keep that competitive edge to keep prices down. That's just step one of getting people covered. And now I want to see what you guys. Does that make sense to you guys? And I know we're on a friendly. Well, you guys are regulars in the live streams. You know we're on a little bit of a delay, so I say things and I have to wait a little bit for it to catch up. But that's one of the first steps I see, and I have further steps on how to deal with those. And beyond that. See, we're the I always get Medicare and Medicaid mixed up. Isn't that terrible? The Medicaid portion of it, providing what the government provides to people who can't do for themselves, disabled people. You know, we have several disabled children. for all the complaints, it works pretty well. I mean, first, it goes out saying Medicaid should always be there for those who can't work, those who are, for whatever reason, if you can't work, Medicaid should be helping you out. Obamacare is that. Obamacare has some good elements to it, but it definitely needs some reworking. The government governs best, governs least. I would agree with that. So we're talking about richest folks barely working or just double their wealth every year. The highest tax rate Bernie proposes. Well, that's not entirely true, Connor. Because at different times, when Bernie got pinned down on how he's going to pay for things, and they said, well, here's the numbers. If you propose 52% tax rate on rich people, and it didn't get him even in the ballpark. It was worlds apart from what he wanted, and then Bernie started hedging that he'd be willing to open up the tax rate to much higher on the rich folks. I don't trust Bernie because I don't trust somebody who comes at you with figures that don't add up. Because as soon as you do that, guess who gets to end up paying for it? All of us, guys. It's going to be us. It's going to be the middle class, as always. Yeah, I'm not a Bernie fan. Hey, Athens. Hi, George. Okay, Exile Cage. My dad is on Medicaid because the machine fell on him when he was in his 30s. I don't have a single issue with paying my taxes to pay so that somebody like Exile Cage's dad has health coverage. I don't think any rational human being in America has an issue with that. The problems start coming in, and this is where, of course, you got the liberals and conservatives, and they start battling. The problem comes in because we have a sector of society who does not want to contribute at all. And on the right, they resist paying for those people. And the left, to their discredit, just denies those people exist. Because if you hear the hardcore liberals, it's always, well, nobody wants to be on welfare. Well, that's not true. Before I moved over to be within the municipality I work for, before I worked for the DPW and worked in the sanitation department, I was a bus driver. I sat on the bus and listened to people who were career welfare recipients plotting and working together, explaining to one another the best ways to game the system so they didn't ever have to go to work. They had ways to game the system as far as college, because if you were in college, you could keep your benefits, so they had ways to game that. They had ways to game everything. I listened to them. Then on that same bus, I had a couple of young women who worked at a local factory. It was a shitty factory. Every day got on that bus, went to work at that factory, and were struggling to provide for their kids because their husbands had taken off on them. I'll pay all day, every day to make sure that they have the assistance they need. That first group, no. I don't want to help you if you don't want to help yourself. Some people focus a lot on how to be leeches. It's unfortunate, but it's true. So if I worked a full day and earned $30 and came home to my two brothers who didn't work and they both decided to kick my ass and take $10 each, that's fair. That's socialism. That's socialism. Yes, Madman. To me, in a nutshell, that's socialism. Again, just what you said. I go to work every day. I get my paycheck. We cash it. We throw it on the floor, and we all divvy it up. Even if you guys don't want to contribute, that's okay, because I'm going to take care of you because I went to work all week. Well, thanks, Athens. I appreciate that. Why do you think? Which would you think is better, the current health care or social health care? You probably have to be a little more specific, George. If you're talking single payer, absolutely not single payer. The current healthcare system needs work. But what I think is, I think this will answer the question you're asking. I think you take the current system and make it work. You certainly don't scrap it and start out with something new. Because as I mentioned, I'm an example of a lower middle class guy who's got excellent health insurance through my employer, even though I'm retired. So why dismantle the parts that work? Leave that alone. Work on the other parts. And I've started laying out what I think is how you do it. First of all, with employers. Employers should have to provide insurances, health insurances, especially the larger employers, for their employees. That raises the prices. That's how you pay for it. We're all going to pay for it because we're going to pay more at Walmart when we buy the next pack of socks. That's far superior to me than the government taking your money and then redistributing it, because you're going to go through so many layers there, you're going to pay 3 times as much to get the same results. Smaller employers, that's where, again, you go more to government intervention. The government can help the smaller employers who maybe paying for that health insurance is going to cripple them. But you need to keep everybody everybody operating in their own lane. So all the small employers are operating with the same list of rules, competing with one another. The huge employers, the Walmart, Target, Kohl's, Sears, JCPenney, Kmart, they're all playing in the same lane. As long as you keep that everybody together, it works for everybody, and you keep that competitive nature that is so important, I believe, to a functioning economy. We have a lot of problems in our economy. All economies do. But I think we have the best system. It just has to stop being abused so much. My big butt. Russell, why the fuck are people so interested in Trump's tax returns won't change anything? Yeah, I don't know how much of my opinion would change, but in fairness, my big butt, I think the reason they're so interested is because there are concerns, and it's legitimate concerns. I mean, you got to be fair. It's legitimate concerns that his tax returns might reveal that he is deeply embedded in some Russian investments, put it that way. And yes, that could be a big deal. So that's why I assume they really want to see them. Oh, Frenzied Chaos, I'm with you completely. He says, I'm not a fan of being fined for not having insurance. Mandatory force is lack of freedom. I don't want insurance, and leave me alone. And what he's talking about, of course, is that part of Obamacare that forced people to get health insurance. Now, I agree with you. No one should be forced to have it. Now, what people are saying is, well, we need to force you to have it, so then if you have a catastrophic injury, that bill is not passed on to the taxpayers. Well, it's 6 of one, half a dozen of another, because if you start talking about socialized medicine, then that bill is passed on to the taxpayers anyway. If you choose not to have health care, then you don't get health care except in a catastrophic incident. So I think people should be allowed to have that. If somebody's willing to roll those dice, especially young, healthy people, if they're willing to roll those dice and say, you know what, on day-to-day things, I'm not going in for checkups. I'm not going in for this. I'm not going in for that. And if I'm I'm cutting a tree down in my yard and I cut my finger, I'm going to have to pay the bill, because otherwise the collection agencies will come and get me. If you're willing to take that risk, you should be allowed to take that risk. And I think the government's backup there is, again, you're talking about a much smaller piece of the tax dollar pie if you have to have some money aside to help the healthcare providers with people who absolutely can't pay for catastrophic. Right, and that's what Frenzied Chaos is saying. If he's willing to pay his medical bills himself. Now, if you can't, then we get into a whole different thing. We have to start determining what happens to people who say, I don't want to be insured, but I want health care coverage. That's a whole different area. But I think people should have the option to pay for it themselves. Absolutely. And it keeps, yes, and again, Young Knight is talking about the national debt that is absolutely out of control. And again, that's why things like, I believe, having the government get involved with having employers provide healthcare services, I think that will help keep national debt down too. Oh, excuse me, guys. I just okay. Whenever my wife's not home, I always keep my phone on just in case there's any type of emergency or something. This isn't an emergency, so excuse me for that. Do I think Mike Pence would do a better job? I think Mike Pence is a much more skilled politician. I think Mike Pence will not do the outlandish things that Trump has done. But again, as I've told you guys, I don't like extremists on either side. I do believe Mike Pence is an extremist. Not the most extreme, but he's too far right for me. Do I think he would do a better job? Unfortunately, probably yes. He probably would do a better job because he understands the political machinery, the political mechanics so much better than Trump. So probably I wouldn't agree with everything Mike Pence does, but if your question is just do I think he would do an overall better job, yes. Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I don't like Mike Pence right there, Karu. I mean, you guys know as I've mentioned to you guys before, I am not a religious person at all. I'm an atheist. I'm not religious. I have no issue with religious people. I see my wife who's very religious, and I see the peace and serenity it gives her in her life, and I admire that. But when that religion is used to discriminate against others, that's when I start having a problem with it. And I don't care what religion it is. I'm not singling out anybody. Anybody who uses the religion to belittle, discriminate, or otherwise keep other people down, that's when I have an issue with it. And I think Mike Pence crosses that line. POTUS on Twitter. I think the idea, Luke asked, what do you think about POTUS on Twitter? I think the idea of a president using Twitter is phenomenal. I think it's a great idea. Do I think the way the Trump uses it is appropriate? Nope, not even a little. That's something that I think, this day and age of this instant communication you can have with the world is phenomenal. And unfortunately, the first president to use it is using it to act like a petulant child most of the time. That discourages me. I voted for Trump. If the election were held again today, if you put Hillary against Donald, I'd vote for him again today, knowing what I know now. Because as far as where he stands on the issues, I put him above Hillary. But yes, he's acting like a petulant child on Twitter, something that should be just a phenomenal avenue for a president to be connected with the people, and he's abusing it. I love that Trump uses Twitter to get around. And that, Luke, that's not a bad thing. He says he likes to use Twitter to get around the media scumbags. I don't know if I'll go so far as to say media scumbags, but you're right. A president has opportunity to speak directly to the people now without, and the media may not like this, and I don't think the media are fake news. I think they're slanted news. But this gives the president the opportunity to talk to people in an unfettered manner without any type of slant put on it. Unfortunately, Trump has decided to use it mostly for basically his little vendettas and his ego. It's unfortunate. Exactly, my big guy. I don't hate Donald Trump for any other reason. I don't hate him. And when I come down on him, it's because he does some stupid shit, not for anything else. I don't even think the most common call is he's a racist. I don't think he's a racist. I really don't. I think he presents himself poorly. But knowing the life he led in business and stuff, I don't find him to be a racist. But it's something that people grab onto. So I don't have any preconceived notions to hate him. But I don't like the way he handles business at all as president. I'd use MySpace, Randy says. Captain Ballsack. Okay, hold on. I'll call that up quick, but when I go away here, I don't like to miss the comments that are coming in. Oh, shit. Okay, I'm back. Okay, I would not use me to... CNN proved this when they attacked the Reddit user for something they didn't even do. Well, absolutely. The media... Hey, the media's... I just don't think you can make a generality. Was what they did to that Reddit user, was that scummy? Absolutely. But I don't think you can make the leap to that, to calling all the media scumbags. That's all I'm saying. I'm not a big fan of the way the media... Because I think the media right now, the way it's handled, is as clickbaity as clickbaity gets. Okay, Spazboy's comedy. I'm trying to keep up, watch you guys' posts, and get to this message here. My subcar healthcare through her job. I'm getting a flex card. My brother donated a kidney, and it's now failing. Her insurance doesn't cover everything like it should. She sometimes has to flex card to pay for it. The system is broken. I agree the system is broken. Subcar. That's why I think we need parameters of what employers should be offering, minimums of what employers should be offering for healthcare, and that should be based on this, how many employees they have. Jacob Zuma. What country is that, Randy? Oh, and I take it you're not a fan. Just from your comment there, I can tell you're not a fan. Because I'm not, to be honest, I'm not familiar with his name. I see you, Curtis, on Twitter. Okay, thanks, my big bot. Thanks for hanging out. Excuse me, guys. I don't know why I've got this itch in my ear. I hate how pretty much every single media organization has a very clear leaning. Oh, AG, anything goes. You are preaching to the choir there. Oh, South Africa. Really? I know South Africa has had a history of some serious political issues with their leaders. Some serious what's the word I want? Has had some serious issues with all types of perversions within their government. Put it that way. Let's see. I had you guys. Oh, anything goes talking about the queer leanings. Yeah, that pisses me off because I never was a Fox News watcher because they've always obviously been way right. CNN pisses me off the most, and here's why. I liked CNN. That was one of my default go-to channels. You know, if I was going to sit in front of the TV, I'd put on CNN, see what news of the day was happening. I liked a lot of their news shows, and they always slightly lean left, but that's palatable. Okay, if it's mostly liberals working there, okay, I'm good with that. But during this campaign, CNN, everybody on that ship leaped to the left as far as they could, hanging off the rails on the left side. And now it's ruined it for me because all I want is a place to go that does actually just give you the news and the facts. I don't want every story to have a slant to one side or the other. So that's why CNN pisses me off, because they also deny that they do it. And all you have to do is call up CNN.com right now, and I guarantee you'll be able to see the slant throughout the stories. I like Phil DeFranco. He's a pretty good guy. Paul Joseph Watson. I like Paul Joseph Watson. I like getting perspectives from everybody, but of course Paul Joseph Watson is very, very far right. But he's very intelligent. I agree with you, Frenzied Chaos. The media's problem is they claim being unbiased when they are. And then that's across the board. Both sides. I agree with you. Why deny it? It's obvious to the world that you guys have a strong bias. Why keep denying it? Just own up to it. Yes, CNN did. They went all in on Hillary. Luke's 100% right. And not just against Trump. They went all in on Hillary from the start. That's how Hillary was able to get the debate questions against Bernie in advance of the debate, because CNN was all in on Hillary. You're 100% right. Yeah, CNN's ruined themselves. Again, I was a regular watcher. I liked CNN a lot, and now I can't. Every time I tune in, and especially with the Russia thing. Don't get me wrong, that's a huge news item and needs to be covered. But every time somebody involved, or that they are thinking, hoping is involved with the Russia thing, is every time they farted, CNN has to cover it. We got to do whole in-depth panel discussions about it. If you don't have anything new, move on to something else. My God, it got boring. My opinion on the Brexit referendum shocked me. I didn't think. I'll get, and again, I always preface things so that I want you guys to understand. I don't want to pretend that I'm authority on something that I have little knowledge on. I understand the concepts of Brexit. I understand how it works. I have some understandings of the consequences of Britain leaving the European Union. But my depth of knowledge is not as good as I would like it to be. Given all that, I was shocked by it. I'm fascinated by it to see what's going to happen. But I don't know. What I know of it, just from what I know of it, if I was a British citizen, I would have voted for it, put it that way. And now again, maybe if I lived over there, my opinion would change because I would have more knowledge. With what I know, I would have voted for it. There's actually a billboard in the Russian airport that says, "Lost your election, blame us." Is that for real, Randy? That is pretty funny. I like to have a sense of humor about it. CNN can drown a bukkake tsunami. Yeah, well, Galahad, I can't fault anybody coming down on CNN anymore for the way they've ruined their own channel. You voted for Cthulhu. It's true, Filthmonger. Cthulhu wouldn't care. He's going to treat everybody the same. Brexit is messy and doesn't look like it's going to play out well for Britain. John Oliver did a piece on it a few weeks ago that highlights why it's regardless going to be a messy deal. Oh, no matter what. In the short-term luminary, I think it's going to be messy. You're 100% right, no matter what. Hopefully in the long term it'll work out, because if nothing else, this channel, having this channel for all these years, has given me a love for Britain, because this channel wouldn't even exist if it weren't for Britain. We have had so many people from England on this channel from day one. And in the times when it's hard to keep the channel going, because, again, it's back to it again now, but you didn't make any money. And I still wanted to do YouTube and would work long, long days just so I could do some YouTube videos. It was a lot of the British people being here that gave me the impetus to do that, because I made some really good online friends from there. So I love Britain. So I'm hoping for the best for them. England is my city. Indeed, young God. Oh, some of the things that are said, it's frightening, isn't it? But I think somebody else mentioned that to me the other day, and like I said, now you folks here on the American side can back me up on this. You'd be surprised how many people in America think that New Orleans is a state. You want to find out if someone does? When you're having a conversation, because of course if you say, hey, do you think New Orleans is a state? They'll think about it and they'll go, no, I knew it was a state. You want to find out? Just ask somebody, say, hey, what's the capital of New Orleans? And they'll start trying to think. They'll be like, oh, yeah. Because, you get people saying things like, England is my city. It's similar to things that go on here. Bethany Wilhelm? Oh, good for her. 46,000, that's good. Yeah, American education is unfortunately not where it should be. And again, a lot of that is because of government. I don't want to go so far to say that. It is because too many things within the educational system are for profit. Like Common Core. Common Core is the absolute drizzling shit. I hate Common Core, and it's a money grab. That's why it's in place. New Orlando is my state, right, or New Orleans is my state. Yeah, right, Connor. Oh, yeah. We do have problems across the board. You're right, Captain Ballsack. Or no, wait. Now, are we talking? Now, I got to remember. Are you British or American? I forgot now, Captain Ballsack. If we're talking British or America there. The UK should have stayed inside the EU, just your opinion? Your opinion is probably based on more knowledge than mine, Odin, to be honest with you. Like I say, my knowledge of the whole situation is very topical. Or I don't even want to say topical. It's very surface. So you guys, I'm sure, know a lot more about it than me. Yes, I'm in upstate New York, Mr. 619. Cincinnati is my nation. Okay, you are American. I just didn't know which country you were referring to. Yes, we do have problems across the board. I think every country does, though, in fairness. Georgia is my planet. Can work. We just didn't implement it. Just like, oh, that's R002. I think that's true with a lot of things. Yeah. But right now, the only reason I can see for Common Core's existence is it's a money grab for the companies who are, if you trace it back, who are well connected politically, who provide all the necessary supplies and information to Common Core. But it's just a ridiculous system. Schools will work the best when you give everybody a basic education and give every opportunity to those who want to take it to the next level to be able to do so. When you try and force everybody to achieve a certain high level, all you're doing is keeping the ones who are going to excel and want to excel from being able to do so. I'm a perfect example of it. Excuse me. I had very little interest in high school when I was going, and you couldn't make me want to have interest in high school. So people like me shouldn't be dragging down the people who do want to take that next level. Make the courses, give the kids the basic knowledge they need to function in life, and offer more to those who want to pursue it. The politicians, most Americans don't why corporation will be the government. There's something to be said for that, Captain Ballsack. Yeah, as long as corporations are owning all the politicians, which, it sounds like something that, oh, it's a conspiracy theory. No, it's not conspiratorial. It's legit. United States of America is my state. Socialism doesn't work with Scandinavian countries, work pretty well, or it doesn't work for the U.S. Well, a little of both, RM Boo. And we're talking about socialism again. First of all, in Scandinavian countries aside, I'll grant you that, socialism doesn't necessarily work well throughout the world. Venezuela, Greece, so on. So there's plenty of examples of why it failed. And yes, I think in the U.S. particularly, you got to remember, look at the Scandinavian countries and the populations as opposed to the population in America in this small of a space. the 350 million people we have here now. And you've got a society here that has lived their entire lives under this specific system of government. And so when you start telling people here that, okay, basically what I said, when you start telling people here that from now on, we're all going to go to work every day, or whoever wants to go to work every day is going to go, whatever you make, whatever money you bring in, let's just, excuse me, guys, excuse me, let's just toss it into a big pool and divvy it up so everybody is equal. Everybody has something. What you'll have here is people revolting. You'll have violence in the streets. And I don't even think that's a bad thing. I like a system that is based on merit. If you want, one thing is true in America, no matter who you are, no matter where you are, you can become a huge success. Whatever avenue that may be. You might be, maybe you're a great athlete and you can become a huge success there. Maybe you're a brilliant rapper, musical artist, whatever it is. Maybe you have a genius idea for the next great selling app. Maybe you've got a great idea for a fun mobile app game that's going to take the world by storm. You've got the next Flappy Bird. You can become hugely successful. Socialism kills that, as far as I'm concerned. It cuts it right out. And I don't think this country, you'd have too many people in this country who would find that a fate similar to death. Let's see. So maybe a man who decided to call himself Curtis Kennedy. That's true. That is true. I am. Scandinavian countries are free market economy with social programs. Okay, GF. Now, again, I'm going to defer to you guys' knowledge there because I'll be first to admit when I don't know something specific. So if what G. Estevez is saying is true, that's a whole different ballgame because we have social programs here in America, and we need social programs. Well, with you trying to move to a socialist form of government, that's an entirely different ballgame. I think the wage gap is real. To a degree, I think it gets overstated at times, but I do think it's a real thing. I think it's something that can be corrected, certainly, but yes, I do think it's real, again, to a degree. I don't think, unfortunately, and it's both sides of the political spectrum, whenever they get any little tidbit, they run with it to extremes. But yes, there is a wage gap. I think that gap is closing, and I think it should be closed. But I don't think it's as bad as some people would like you to believe. Well, that a lot of it's what Galahad says. Oh, I'm going to take a piece of it. When you've had a different form of government for the entire history of your nation, of course, people are going to have a different mindset about another form of government. Excuse me. Yeah, I'm with you, Luminary. I do think it's real. It's just not as bad as some people would have you believe. It's not as extreme as some people would have you believe if it fits their narrative. Okay, Asylum, thank you for hanging out with us. You don't believe it's real, young God? I think it's real. I think it exists in certain areas, but I think it has closed. Well, if you guys are as old as me, you would see the wage gap has definitely closed over the past decades. It's not nearly what it used to be. The wage gap is myth like white privilege and Armenian genocide. Yeah, and again, Bukaki Tsunami says white privilege, and again, I'm a white guy, so I can only speak to it from that side. I understand why that became a term, and I think there is a glimmer of truth to it. Excuse me, guys, I don't know why I got such a horrible tickle in my throat. But I don't think white privilege is the great evil that a lot of people on the left would like you to believe that it is, and I don't think that people flaunting their white privilege, I think a lot of times where the term white privilege is used, it's used completely inappropriately. So, again, I'm not overly privileged. I don't, you know, they say, well, you're white privileged because you can go down the street and not be hassled by the cops. To a degree, I've been stopped by the cops plenty of times. I don't know, maybe it's how I interact with the cops, but whenever I get stopped by the cops, I'm very polite to them. And if they ask me to keep my hands on the dash or on the wheel, I keep my hands on the wheel. And if I go to reach for something in the glove compartment, I tell them I'm going to do. I don't know. Once you control for these additional variables, wage gap shrinks down to nearly non-existent. Yeah, like I say, the wage gap is certainly not nearly what it once was. Not anywhere as close. But it shouldn't exist. You're right. It does exist, but it's not nearly as huge. Oh, definitely, Luminary. White privilege is not. Yeah, it's not as stark as it was 30 or 40 years ago, without question. Without question. You know what gets to me? Because I'm an old white guy, always kind of bothers me. You'd be surprised, especially because I live in a very rural area, you'd be surprised how many people that I'll encounter, other white folks on a daily basis, who think it's entirely and completely cool to start throwing the N-word around in front of me because I'm a good old boy. I'm an old white man. You know what? Again, I'm not hung up on semantics. I don't like that word thrown around because in the respect that there's only one, it only has one meaning. It's to demean people. Now, if you're discussing the use of that word, then you can use the word. But to just throw it around in conversation, why? But people think because I look like this, it's cool to do. Excuse me. So there is definitely some work needs to be done. Everything is ruled by the almighty dollar. Oh, without a doubt. Those who don't have any want it, and those who have it don't want to lose it. True? And that's why the wealthy, many of the wealthy, you're right, do not want to pay taxes. And those are what we have to cut. That's where we have to come down on the wealthy, I believe. Not in putting their tax rates at exorbitant amounts that aren't fair to anybody. It's cutting out the loopholes. That leads me to, this is going to be for, I don't want to get too deep into this because this will be a future conversation in of itself. But it leads you to, is a flat tax rate for income tax, is that fair? We're going to have that conversation at some point. Thank you, Matthew. Thanks for hanging out with us. And we'll be having these streams regularly now. Charlie, I'm an independent, Charlie. I won't align with any party. I think that using the word is fine as long as in a non-racist context. I agree, Connor. I agree 100%. Because, okay, I always say, what if I'm using this sentence? What if I say I think the word nigger is offensive and has no real use in society but to demean someone? That's how I'm going to say that sentence. I'm not going to say I think that the N-word is offensive and has no real use in society, because that's not what I mean. I don't think the N-word is offensive. I think the word nigger is offensive. So, yes, when you get so hung up on semantics that you make a word taboo, it just gives it more power to the people who want to demean. Because now if they say it, everybody goes, oh, and so instead of just being able to look at them and say, you know what, that's another racist dipshit who should be ignored, everybody's got to have this opinion or this reaction at first, and that's what they want. Trump is a baboon, but Hillary is Satan. That pretty much sums it up. Luke Price brings up the Confederate flag controversy. For any of you who don't know, a lot of states in the South now, they've had them take down the Confederate flag. They don't want it. They're seeing the Confederate flag as a sign of racism. My stance on that is, okay, I can see to where if, you know, your people were under that flag, treated a certain horrible way, I can see where that would be distasteful to you. But if you know exactly what the whole history of the Confederate flag is, I think it's ridiculous that you say it can't be flown, or that if somebody flies it in front of their house, they're going to get attacked. Because, again, that's their freedom of speech. They like the Old South. Whatever their reason may be, who cares? As long as they're not hurting anybody, who cares? Now it's in movies and games. So they're going to be... I agree with that, Randy. I agree. Yeah, when Randy's saying it's political conversations are great, but you like them to be in the proper context like they are here, where, because he's got, if he's got a movie and game channel and people want to get into political debate, yeah, it does kind of suck. Yeah, I agree with you, Luke. I agree with you there. The Confederate flag is not something I want to fly, but then again, why would I was, you know, I was born here in the Northeast. I never lived in an area that ever flew the Confederate flag. But to say that you shouldn't be able to fly it, not knowing, particularly not knowing what your purpose is for flying it, that you just are proud, you're a proud Southern boy, for instance, that's wrong. That's wrong. It's not right to, as long as nobody is hurting someone else or promoting violence against someone else, to say that the Confederate flag represents the KKK is wrong. It's just not, it's not fair. It's stupid in the government. Like, if you want to personally do it, who the hell? That's my point exactly, Luminary. If everybody wants to do it individually, I see no issue with it. I can see why they want to take it down, state buildings and such, because of what it does represent for some people. I don't think that completely crosses the line into SJW, goddammit, because some people have a legitimate reason not to like it. Fly the American flag, fly the official state flag, but anybody that wants to fly, if they want to fly it on the back of their pickup truck, they should be allowed to. Freedom of expression. The AWB flag? I'll have to check that out, Randy. I'll check that out. Young Knight, how close do you believe we are to World War III? Fortunately, Young Knight, I honestly don't think it's all that imminent right now. Okay, first of all, the U.S. and Russia both have far too much to lose in starting World War III. We had MAD, mutually assured destruction, keeping us all alive for years during the Cold War, which is why it never bloomed into anything more. And I think it's similar to this day. There's no gain to be had for Russia and America actively engaging one another, and I think both sides are well aware of that. North Korea is a different beast. I think North Korea is going to end up in a state of war because that little douchebag over there, that little fat bastard, is out of his mind. Obviously, he doesn't care about, he's got his people starving in the streets and he's comfortable with that, so he can build more nukes. But I don't think anybody's coming to his defense. Whether it's America that has to take him out, it'll probably be an allied force that has to take him out. It's going to be tricky because you know as soon as we come after him, he's going to fire his nukes at South Korea and probably Japan as well. I do think there will be a war there. I do not think it's going to start World War III. I think it's going to be horrific. There's going to be a lot of casualties. I think North Korea will be pretty much eliminated, and I think there will be severe damage throughout that whole region. But no, I do not think it'll start World War III. Doesn't care for Vladimir. That's what I'm saying, Luminary. As much as Putin's crazy, and Vladimir Putin is 100%. I mean, he's intense. He's not an idiot. He's not Kim Jong-un. He's not a complete moron like that little tool bag. Putin knows you're not the leader of anything when everybody's evaporated, and that's what it would amount to. There's no gain in nuclear exchange for him, and I think he has enough opposition in his country. You have to realize there are human beings in Russia too, even though we're in America and it's like we see them as one block or something. You still have to have human beings pulling those trigger. How many of them are going to be willing to do it as a first strike? I just don't see it happen. I don't think China will defend North Korea at all, my friend. Again, just my opinion, but I don't think China will come to North Korea's defense. I think as soon as North Korea is wiped out, China will, boom, be in there, and I don't think anybody cares. I think America will say that's fine, and that's understandable. China doesn't want any type of American influence on their border. That's fine, but I don't think they will stand up on their behalf at all. I think China wants to just wash their hands of it, let them be eliminated, and help put whatever regime takes their place in. Let's see. Yeah, we do need to kill that chubby little dipshit. You're 100% right. I'm just trying to keep up with all the comments here as best I can, guys. Oh, yeah. North Korea is, unfortunately, unless somehow somebody, whether it's us, China, could infiltrate and somehow shoot that little bastard, somehow kill him. Outside of that, I unfortunately think North Korea is going to end up a parking lot, a smoldering parking lot. And unfortunately, a lot of lives are going to be lost, not only in North Korea, but surrounding areas. But that little fat bastard is just leaving no other options. Yes, China will. not even necessarily try and take over North Korea, Connor, but make sure that they have a strong influence on what government takes over. To be honest, I don't think we as Americans should be that concerned about it. As long as whatever government they want to install isn't a threat to South Korea, Japan, or our allies, you can almost understand China not wanting our influence right on their border. At least I do. Do I think Trump had Russian help during the election? At this point, Isaac, no. I think Russia tried to interfere 100%. No question. I don't think any of what Russia wanted to accomplish was effective. Hillary likes to blame her loss on the FBI director Comey, saying that he had to reopen that investigation, and that investigation only came because Russian hacking gave him more information. I think Hillary Clinton lost the election with the word deplorables. She rallied an entire base. That loss is 100% on Hillary, and Hillary, I'm sure, will spend the rest of her life explaining to you why she had nothing to do with it. She was an innocent victim in that loss. When she uttered the word deplorables, she fucked herself. I think that changed the election, that moment. Yeah, Chinese are under the yoke of communism. It is unfortunate, but at least they are a nation that we can work with. They're not outlandishness. They're not ridiculousness like what we're dealing with in North Korea. Hillary and Bill are, yeah, they're pretty dark. They're pretty dark. Luminary. He said not to mention her ground game is weak. Well, it's not even so much it was weak; it was misplaced. She didn't go into the heartland. She just took it for granted that she was winning all those Rust Belt states, and that was a huge mistake. Huge mistake. But I've always said the word deplorable lost the election for Hillary. Why did we lose? I want you guys. What the hell's going on here? Select event. Okay, we got our chat back. Sorry, guys. I don't know why the viewer went down. Yeah, I just got it, CJ or C John. Thank you. I don't know what the hell made that stop. Why is the Earth flat? Marshall says. I think killing Kim Jong-un could actually lead to much more chaos. Likely could fuck it up even more. Maybe, Randy. Maybe. I tell you, I don't know. At the current state that North Korea is in right now, I really don't know that there is a worse. I really don't. Because North Korea, I think, will take nuclear action as soon as they're able to actually take a nuclear action. I really think they will. He's completely out of his fucking mind. Russia just got Putin and all those other holdovers from Soviet Union. They'd be a lot better off. Yeah, well, there's definitely something to be said for that, Isaac. It does at times seem like Putin is trying to reinvigorate the old Soviet Union. That does seem to be his end game at some point, without a doubt. Do I think Bernie Sanders would have been a better candidate? No, I do not, Justin. I'm not a fan of Bernie Sanders. And I know we've been going over an hour now, so I'll restate because we have a lot of newer people in here. Bernie Sanders I don't like simply because I think he makes a lot of promises that he absolutely has no chance in hell of implementing, just on basic math alone. When you have somebody out there telling people, well, I'm going to get you free health care and I'm going to get you free college, and it's not going to happen. Because the only way to make that happen is in a socialist society where you tax people at alarming rates to make sure that those who don't want to contribute are covered as equally as those who do. And I think that would make for the most violent confrontations in this country since the Civil War. That's true, Fieldmonger. China is communist by name, and that's it. You're right. China has definitely westernized over the last couple decades. No question about that. Oh, Luke Price says, I wish we had a united Korea free from tyranny. I agree 100% there. Right. Bernie's, that's my opinion too, Galahad. Bernie's ideas simply are not doable. They aren't. And then when he tries to tell you how he's going to pay for it, all you have to do is look at the numbers, and they're not there, which means come to the middle class and get the extra you need. How do I think Trump has performed so far? Well under what he should be performing. I voted for him. I'm very disappointed in how he's performing so far. Very disappointed. I like some of the things he's done. Don't get me wrong, and I give him credit for some of the things he's done. I like the tougher border security, the constant, just puerile tweets and wars that he involves himself in are just such a distraction and so ridiculous. Democrats definitely would have won. I disagree, Luminary, because Bernie is the most popular politician in the country. Bernie is a popular, I don't know about the most popular, but a popular politician, I think only because he was never taken seriously. Excuse me. Everybody knew Hillary was going to be the Democratic candidate. If Bernie ever has to run and he is a party's nominee and the whole world gets to dissect and is actually paying attention to the dissection of what he's proposing, I think he goes right in the crapper. Because I honestly believe, not all, there's a lot of people that know everything about Bernie, know everything he's proposing, and still support him. I think there's a huge number of people that hear free college, free health care for all, everything's wonderful, everybody, don't worry about the amount of effort you put in, we're going to take care of you. That's all they hear, and they don't understand what comes with that. What do you think about feminism? I was a big supporter of feminism decades ago because there was a real need for a feminist movement, because women were clearly, in my childhood, women were clearly treated as second-class citizens, and I love women. But I think now that whole feminist movement has been hijacked by extremists. That's the unfortunate part. I like some of what Ron Paul has to say. It's like most politicians. I like some of what Ron Paul has to say. There's other things I don't agree with him so much on, but I think he's a legitimate guy. Ben Carson, I think, is a really good man who's not cut out for politics. That's my basic opinion on Ben Carson. I think he's a brilliant man. I think he's a very well-intentioned man. I don't think he's a good man politically, to be in the political spotlight. I don't think he has, what's the word I want? The wherewithal, the tenacity for politics. And I think he relies a little bit too much on his religious beliefs to form his political opinions for my liking. I can't guarantee anything, but I'll try my best. Oh, that would be, Randy, that would be so wonderful if anybody even said that. What I like to see, and it's never going to happen, I would like to see a president, and again, I'm biased because this is how I feel about things politically. We're never going to get rid of this partisan divide. However, if the people could come together and elect a president who is willing to say, you know what, I really honestly don't have a leaning either way. So every goddamn issue we have to tackle, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you guys from this side, you guys from that side, we're going to get in a room, you guys are going to make your case to me, and I'm going to support whoever makes the better case. When we get that guy in there, I say this country accelerates to, we go 0 to 100 in 3.2 seconds. Because if you have somebody who's really an arbitrator and who really genuinely only wants what's best for the country and doesn't have a base that he's worried about appeasing and doesn't have big money donors he's worried about appeasing and can just say, left, come here, right, come here. And I just did that opposite. I'm aware of that. Come here, come in, tell me, this is the issue. Healthcare is the issue. What are your thoughts and concerns? What are your thoughts and concerns? What do you want to do? What do you want to do? Takes all that information and takes the best of it and implements, I think we move ahead. I was saying I would not run as a politician, but as a regular average Joe. That's what we need. But we need, Warmish Pack says, I would not as a politician, but as a regular average Joe. We need somebody like that with just enough wherewithal to take in information and make intelligent choices. You don't need to be a genius. You need to be able to take in information from people who have the information you need and incorporate that into good, smart decisions that benefit everybody. That's what I would like to see. Because we're never going to get rid of the political divide. If in 2020 we elect somebody from the left, we do the same thing that we're doing now with the roles reversed. If we re-elect Trump or re-elect somebody from the hard right, we do the same thing again. It's always going to be this trust me, health care could be worked out in this country. There's no doubt in my mind we could come up with a real good, workable formula. I've got my own ideas on it. We've talked about a lot of them here today, but we can't because of partisanship. That's why. A lot of it is because, let's be fair, the Republicans don't want Obama's name on it. We need a president in there that doesn't give a shit whose name is on something. Does it work? Call it Obamacare, call it Hillary Care, call it whatever you want, call it Popeye Care. I don't care whose name is on it. Make it work. Make it work. But to be fair, the libs, the left, they do the same thing. If it's got any type of right or Republican entrails around it, they want nothing to do with it. It's just it's mind blowing. I'm not a I can see term limits. Yeah, I don't have an issue with term limits. Now, I mean, and it's ironic that, you know, in Congress you don't have term limits, yet presidents do. So it's kind of bizarre. Hashtag Popeye 2020. Call it Bukkake Care. You're right, Randy. Call it whatever you want to call it. Just make it work. But that's a lot of the issue, is the Obama moniker got hung on it. And Republicans don't want that up. Who cares if it's called Obamacare? You're that petty? Just make it work. And I'm not saying Obamacare is good. It isn't. It needs a lot of work. What I'm saying is you need a president who's willing to make those changes and let the people call it whatever the fuck they want to call it. Who cares whose name is on it? And Civil War, because I hear a lot about working class welfare recipients. Serious reforms need to weed out those who are abusing it. You're 100% right, Captain Ballsack. And that one is on the left. I believe that's on the left that keeps us from moving forward there, because the left almost doesn't want to recognize the fact that there are leeches in society. If you listen to a lot of the hard-leaning left politicians talk, when you talk about welfare or something, they'll tell you, nobody wants to be on welfare. People, you have to give people a hand up because they're on welfare because they can't do any better. No, I've experienced the people. I've told you guys that. I had them on my city bus. There are people who love being on welfare. They don't want to work. And if you were to put in plans that recognize that, you could get the right on board with you. I think the majority, not all, the majority of people on the right are even willing to say, listen, if you want to take my tax dollars to help the disabled, the elderly, people who've been injured, people who can't work, can't contribute, or even someone who really, honestly cannot find a job, take the tax dollars and help them out. But you have to lump in the ones that want to do nothing. And then the left pretends that those people don't exist. Excuse me. Galahad says, what do I think of the burning of the American flag? My stance, you can't make it illegal, I don't think, because, again, it's a freedom of expression. I'm not for it myself, and I think there are much better ways to protest something. I think, for the most part, when you burn the American flag as an American, you're just an attention whore and little more. But I don't think it should be illegal, no. I don't think it should be illegal. But I'm not a proponent of it, and I think it's a weak way to protest anything. Because no matter what your issue is, if to be perfectly honest, if you hate America, and by burning the American flag, you're saying you hate America, right? What other symbolism would there be? Move. Nobody keeps you here. Now, if you want to stay here and say, I don't like this aspect of being an American, and I want to change it, go for it. And more power to you. I hope you get the changes you want. But when you burn the American flag, you can say, well, I'm only doing it because I don't believe in this or I don't believe in that. I think the symbolic gesture you're making when you burn the American flag is you don't like this country. So go. But no, I don't think it should be illegal. I believe Trump is incompetent. Unfortunately, Filthmonger, he's giving a lot of us pause to believe that he's incompetent. I like some of the things he tries to accomplish. I just wish he had at least a little bit of lucidity about how he goes about it. See, Tsunami, flag burners, they piss me off too for the reasons I mentioned. I can't honestly say I wish any of them dead. I just think they're pathetic. Send feminists to the Middle East. Well, that would be an eye-opener. And I get what you're saying, Gonzalo, in the respect that you do have the feminists who believe that women or whoever have it so bad here, but then seem to support people from other areas of the world where they would kill them. So I don't know. Senators and congressmen that vote their conscience should be purged. Well, no. In other words, we want senators and congressmen who will vote their conscience and not their party line, or what their either corporate backers or their hardcore base feel they need to do. The stupid shit's paid for it anyway. You're right, Darkman. I think burning the American flag, unless what you're trying to say is I hate America, I think overall, I don't think you get to qualify within that. If you burn the flag, I think you're saying I hate America. Because we have freedom of expression, you have the right to do that, but why not just get out then? Instead of pushing legislation. That's true, Luminary. I agree with that. I've never been a big fan of signing executive orders over legislation when there are options. But in fairness to Trump, the previous administration was big on that as well. And I didn't like it then, and I don't like it now. But yeah, Obama was very big on executive order, especially near the end. Guys, thank you so much for this first stream. I just looked at the time. I got to go. I got a bunch of shit I got to do this afternoon. I had an absolute blast in this stream. Thank you guys so much for participating, for giving me your opinions. I love doing this. I'm going to be streaming on here every chance I get with a variety of topics. I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. We covered healthcare pretty well, I think, but covered a lot of other things equally well that I just have enjoyed this entire conversation. I can't thank you guys enough for hanging out. And please keep an eye out for more streams upcoming, because there will be a lot more of them on the way. Thank you guys, and I will talk to you all really, really soon. Bye, guys.